This is a story I shouldn't be telling, because if the wrong people hear it, I could be in trouble, but some things are too strange, too disturbing to keep buried. And if you've ever taken the subway in New York City late at night, you'll understand. There's an emptiness to it. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The tunnels echo like they're alive. You start to notice things you normally wouldn't. And sometimes those things notice you back. But this isn't just a ghost story. This is a conspiracy, one that goes back decades. There are reports, missing person cases, old rumors about subway lines that don't appear on maps anymore. Trains that people swore they boarded, but never got off. And it all starts with a college kid. His name was Ethan. He was 21, studying journalism at NYU. It was a Wednesday night. He'd stayed late at the library finishing a paper, and by the time he walked down into the subway, it was almost midnight. The station was nearly empty. That's when he noticed something strange. The big clock over the platform wasn't moving. Both hands frozen at 12 o'clock. He checked his phone. Same thing. 12 a.m. sharp. No seconds ticking by. The numbers just stuck there. At first he thought his phone had glitched, but the ticket machine was off too. When he swiped his Metro card, it printed a paper stub instead of charging his card. The stub didn't even have the MTA logo. Just 2 words. Boarding granted. Ethan almost turned around right then, but the train rolled in before he could. It screeched against the rails, sparks flashing in the tunnel. The doors slid open with a hiss. He stepped inside. The car looked normal at first. Gray floors, plastic seats, the usual dim, flickering lights overhead. There were maybe half a dozen other passengers. A man in a suit, clutching a briefcase so tight his fingers looked bloodless. A woman rocking slowly back and forth, staring straight ahead. A kid no older than 10, hugging a torn teddy bear with no eyes. At first Ethan thought nothing of it. It's New York. You see weird people on the subway all the time. But then he really looked at them. Their skin was pale. Too pale. Like it had never seen sunlight. Their lips were dry, cracked. Their eyes glassy, hollow. And none of them made a sound. No coughing, no shuffling, not even the sound of breathing. The train jolted forward. The tunnels rushed past. And then Ethan noticed something else. Every station they passed, the train didn't stop. Now, you might think this sounds like some urban legend. But here's the thing. Ethan wasn't the first. Back in the 1960s, the New York Times ran a short article about a subway ghost line that supposedly appeared under Manhattan. Several commuters claimed they boarded a train that skipped every station, and none of them were ever seen again. The article was pulled the next day. No explanation. No follow-up. Some say the MTA buried the story to avoid panic. Others claimed the FBI classified it, tying it to missing persons cases across the city. But what nobody denies is that trains have gone missing before. Whole cars erased from the records. And Ethan was now on one of them. Ethan sat down, gripping his paper ticket like it was a lifeline. The train rattled forward, deeper into the tunnels. Normally, New York subways make that rhythmic, comforting clack 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 on the rails. But this train, it was different. The wheels screeched as if they were straining to move, yet somehow they glided without slowing, without pause. He looked around the car again. The passengers, they hadn't moved. Not a twitch, not a blink. And then Ethan noticed something worse. Their reflections weren't right. He caught the man in the suit in the glass of the window. The man's eyes were black pits. His skin seemed to shimmer like ash. Ethan's stomach churned. The briefcase wasn't solid. It looked like smoke. Ethan's heart raced. He wanted to stand up, to scream, to run, but the car was too still. The air was heavy, almost suffocating. The lights flickered. One moment bright, the next dim, shadows crawling along the walls. He pressed the emergency brake. Nothing. The lever wouldn't budge. Panic set in. He moved toward the doors. Locked. Rusted shut. Then he noticed the windows. The tunnels outside were wrong. Not Manhattan. Not even New York. In one window, he saw a burned city skyline under a green, stormy sky. In another, a thick fog swallowed everything, and shadowy figures walked endlessly in the mist. And sometimes, when he blinked, he thought he saw the faces of the passengers moving outside the train, staring back at him from the tunnels. Ethan tried to speak to the passengers. Hey, does anyone know what's going on? Silence. Not just quiet, but the kind of silence that presses into your ears, like the train itself is swallowing sound. And then he noticed the child. The boy in the corner, the one with the teddy bear, was now looking directly at him. Slowly, head tilting unnaturally, and he whispered, "Don't get off." Ethan stumbled back. This wasn't a normal train, not a normal subway. This was something else, something that shouldn't exist. And the deeper the train went, the more he noticed. The other passengers were changing. Their skin peeled, revealing gray, leathery faces. Their mouths stretched in impossible ways, whispering things Ethan couldn't understand. Their eyes, sometimes empty, sometimes glowing faintly red. It was like the train was feeding on them. Or maybe it was them. Ethan reached into his backpack and pulled out his phone, hoping for GPS, for a way to call someone. But the screen went black. Every app, every signal, gone. The only thing left was the camera. He pointed it at the passengers and froze. The camera didn't show them as they were. It showed them as corpses, sitting silently, staring at him. Then he remembered something. A conversation he overheard years ago at a subway station. An old janitor muttering about Line Zero. Line Zero? He had laughed back then. A myth, he thought. But now he understood. The MTA map he studied in college never had a Line Zero. But some obscure reports, missing person files, quietly archived mentioned it. A line that appeared only at midnight. A line that didn't stop. Ethan's hands shook. He ran down the aisle toward the conductor's cabin, desperate for answers. The cabin door was closed. He tried turning the handle. Locked. He pounded on it. Nothing. And that's when he heard it. A whisper. Soft at first, almost like a breeze through the train. Then louder, more insistent. This train only stops once you're dead. The hairs on his neck stood straight. He spun around. The passengers were all staring at him now. Not blankly, not quietly, but hungrily. Their lips moving in a chorus of whispers he couldn't understand. Ethan backed into the cabin door. His mind screamed, this isn't real. It can't be real. But it was. And the train, it wasn't just moving through tunnels anymore. It was moving through time and space. Past buildings that had burned, through stations that never existed, into places that felt eternal. And in that moment, Ethan realized he might never leave this train alive. Ethan's legs were trembling. His chest burned, but he had to keep moving. The whispers from the passengers grew louder, a rising hum that filled the carriage. Words he couldn't understand. Words that made his skin crawl. He reached the door to the conductor's cabin. The handle was cold, rusted, and for a moment, he froze, half expecting something to reach out and stop him. But desperation won. He twisted the handle. The door creaked open. Inside it was empty. Not just empty like a normal train cabin. Empty in a way that felt wrong. Dust hung thick in the air, coating every surface in gray. The controls were rusted over, wires hanging loose. The levers and buttons were coated in grime, untouched for decades. Yet somehow, the train still moved. Ethan stepped inside, scanning the room. And that's when he noticed the small pile of papers on the conductor's seat. He picked one up. Faded. Yellowed. Stamped with a seal he didn't recognize. Some government insignia, half erased. Passenger lists. Names, dates, people who had disappeared. Dozens of them. Then another paper. Instructions. Typed precise. Line Zero operates outside conventional time. Never attempt to stop or exit. Passengers are not to interfere. All reports erased. Ethan's hands shook. This wasn't just a ghost train. This was a secret experiment. A hidden line the government had quietly erased from maps. A line that didn't obey the rules of the city or even the world. He stumbled backward, heart hammering. That's when he heard it again, the whisper. You shouldn't be here. And now it was close. Behind him, the air grew icy. The lights flickered. Shadows stretched along the walls. He turned slowly. The passengers had followed him. They weren't walking. They seemed to float, gliding silently toward the cabin. Their hollow eyes fixed on him, their mouths opening and closing in silent murmurs. One of them raised a hand, pointing, not at Ethan, but at the door behind him. He looked and saw something he couldn't explain. A tunnel leading somewhere impossible. A station that didn't exist. Signs written in symbols that seemed to shift when he looked away. And beneath the platform, faint lights flickered. Deep in the darkness, something moved. Something that didn't belong. Ethan realized the truth. This train, this Line Zero, it wasn't just a train. It was a corridor, a doorway, a trap, and he didn't know if anyone had ever left it alive. He wanted to run. He wanted to scream. But his feet felt glued to the floor. The whispers grew louder, now a deafening chorus, filling every corner of the cabin. And then a voice. Clear. Calm. This train only stops once you're dead. No one spoke. The words seemed to echo inside his own head. Ethan's mind raced. He thought of missing person reports, of families waiting for someone who never came home, of government files erased, photos blurred, tickets stamped but never charged. He reached out to grab one of the papers, just one, and the moment he touched it, the cabin seemed to stretch, the walls bending like rubber. The light snapped out, and he was alone. Not alone really, but alone in a way that made him realize there might be no escaping. Ethan's hands were trembling, sweat running down his temples. The whispers were louder now, coming from every corner of the train. Not just the passengers, the walls themselves seemed to whisper. He looked out the windows again, and froze. This wasn't New York anymore. One window showed a street he had never seen, lined with buildings charred black, smoke curling into a green-tinged sky. Another showed a tunnel so long it disappeared into darkness, with shadowy figures walking endlessly, like lost souls trapped in limbo. He blinked, and suddenly, the same faces of the passengers appeared outside the train, staring back at him through the glass, mouths moving silently. Ethan backed away from the window, heart hammering. The train was moving, but not along any tracks he recognized. The tunnels twisted, stretched, and bent like molten metal. Then the boy in the corner, the one with the teddy bear, stood up. He wasn't walking. He was gliding, floating just above the floor. Ethan wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The passengers all turned toward him, slowly, unnaturally. Hollow eyes glowing faintly, skin peeling, mouths whispering words he couldn't understand. And then he realized, the train wasn't moving through space anymore. It was moving through something else. Time, memories, dimensions. The ceiling above flickered, showing flashes of events he didn't recognize. Past passengers trapped in the cars, screaming silently, their faces twisted in agony. Ghostly trains running parallel, disappearing into the darkness. Ethan ran down the aisle, desperate for an exit. Every door he tried was locked, rusted, as if the train itself wanted him inside. A strange sensation overcame him, a pull, like gravity bending around his chest. The air grew thick, almost liquid, pressing down on him. He looked back at the passengers again, and now they were smiling. Not normal smiles. Grins that split faces in ways that shouldn't be possible. The boy raised a finger and whispered again, "Don't try to leave." Then, faintly, from somewhere deep in the cabin, came the voice. Clear, menacing, calm. "This train only stops once you're dead." Ethan's mind screamed. He remembered the old reports, the missing person files erased from city archives, the faint rumors about Line 0. And he realized, with chilling clarity, he was trapped, perhaps forever. The train plunged deeper into tunnels that weren't there. The shadows of passengers merged with the darkness outside, stretching and twisting. Shapes moved in the corners of his vision, faces he hadn't seen before, staring silently, reaching out. And Ethan understood, this wasn't just a train. It was a corridor to something unnatural, a place where the living became part of the machine. No emergency brake, no conductor, no exit, just the endless rumble of rails, the chorus of whispers, and the hollow eyes of those who had come before. Ethan's lungs burned. His legs felt like lead. He had run the length of the train, past the hollow-eyed passengers, past the boy with the teddy bear, past shadows that didn't belong to anyone. And now, he was at the very front, at the conductor's cabin again. The door creaked open as if inviting him in. Inside, the cabin was even stranger than before. The controls weren't just rusted, they were alive, pulsing faintly, like the veins of some enormous creature. The levers shifted on their own, the gauges spinning wildly, showing stations that didn't exist, abyss, null, oblivion. And then a figure appeared, a man in a conductor's uniform, tall, thin, his face hidden in deep shadow. His voice was soft, calm, almost hypnotic. "You've come far, but this is where the ride ends." Ethan's knees buckled. What is this?" The conductor didn't answer. He just gestured to the window. Ethan looked. Outside, nothing. No tunnel. No city. Just endless darkness, lit by faint flickers of red and green, shapes moving in impossible ways. He could see trains running alongside, carrying passengers like himself, dozens of them, frozen in terror, their faces empty, their mouths whispering silently. Ethan realized with a sickening clarity he was not alive. Not fully. Not yet. The whisper came again, louder this time, filling every inch of the train. "This train only stops once you're dead." The passengers turned to face him as one. Their eyes glowed, their mouths stretched unnaturally, opening in silent screams. The boy pointed again, and Ethan understood. He was being chosen. He tried to run, to escape the cabin, the train, the impossible darkness, but his body wouldn't move. It was like gravity itself had turned against him, holding him in place. Then a hand touched his shoulder. Cold. Ice. Hollow. He screamed, but the sound didn't escape. The conductor leaned in, whispering in a voice that was not quite human. Line 0 never forgets. You belong to the ride now. Ethan's vision blurred. The train stretched into infinity. Lights flickered. Faces merged with shadows. And in the chaos, he understood the truth. Every missing passenger, every erased file, every rumor about ghost trains and midnight disappearances, they were all real. All true. And now, he was one of them. The story doesn't end. Because some nights, if you ride a late train in New York City, you might see it. A train that doesn't appear on the map. Empty, or almost empty. The lights flicker. The air chills. And sometimes, you swear you see faces staring at you from the windows. Hollow, pale, frozen in terror. And if you listen carefully, from the darkness behind, you might hear a whisper. This train only stops once you're dead. And by then, it's too late. If you think this story was unsettling, just remember, some trains never stop. And some passengers never get off. If you want more true horror stories, unexplained mysteries, and tales that will keep you up at night, make sure to subscribe AI Storytelling YTS and turn on notifications, because the next story might be closer than you think. Thanks for watching.